Good afternoon and welcome to our first EEUK webinar. This one, Technology for Busy Enterprise Educators. We're delighted to have with us a panel, as you can see, Lee Sharma, the Chief Executive of Simply Do Ideas, and all of the guests that he's lined up for us today. And you'll see them listed there. We'll also have Chris Walker joining us remotely from Bangor. So I'd like to hand over to Lee and the panel to kick us off. Over to you, Lee.
There we go. Thank you very much, Bonnie, for the fantastic introduction. So, as you can see, we're based in sunny Cardiff today with my three fantastic guests. So, hopefully, that today should be an informative lunchtime session. And appreciate everyone engaging and listening into this webinar as well. So, without further ado, I'd like to do some quick introductions. Just to reiterate, so I'm Lee Sharma, the Chief Executive of a company called Simply Do Ideas. We deal with educational technology to help take early stage ideas through to reality. And we'll move on next to the lovely Christine Bissex.
Hi, I'm Chris Bissex. I'm Head of Enterprise Skills and Erasmus at the College Merthyr Tydfil.
Thank you.
I'm Derry Gray. I'm the Business Startups Manager at Cardiff Metropolitan. I help oversee the Centre for Entrepreneurship, which is a purpose-built facility to promote enterprise education across the university. And we also have an incubator and accelerator program there as well.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Jay. I'm founder of Namsjay. I set up my business through Cardiff Met. I'm a graduate from Cardiff Met as well.
Fantastic, and thank you for all coming in, and brought some sunshine, which is good. So just to sort of deep dive a little bit into your role. So Chris, I'll start with you. So is your role kind of mostly on the kind of startup side, the kind of the curriculum side? You run events. How does a role sort of shape up?
Okay, well, as the main point of contact, I do have an assistant, but our job is to embed enterprise in the curriculum and help startups and run events, really, just to do everything. But we don't want to just concentrate on startups because those are usually in small in number. We want to try and get everyone in the college to be au fait with the idea of starting their business and to have the skills, even if they think they might not do that now. It's just to plant the seed in their minds, right, so that one day when they're ready to do so, they'll have some knowledge.
Great, thank you. And Darry, so is yours kind of the blended mix? What's yours kind of main focus?
So my own role is actually I suppose, predominantly is to support startups. That is our primary function. But in order to do that, just through the process of learning and through research and everything else, we've come to realise that actually, in order to do that and to improve the quality of startups that we have to work further into the curriculum, and this means working much earlier on, and also that means also supporting academics and other staff as well. I suppose the centre has almost become a place where, as a central resource when it comes to entrepreneurship education now. So, and we're there to help facilitate that.
Okay, great. It's a good intro as well. So, and Jay's actually a product of the Cardiff Met system as well. So Jay, what kind of activity did you engage with when you were at Cardiff Met, even when you were doing your degree as well?
So I engaged with the Centre for Entrepreneurship, and I did the accelerator program, where we used the Simply Do Idea platform.
Thank you.
And that really helped me define what I wanted to do, my target audience, and how I wanted to launch my business.
Okay. So would you say when you started with your idea, were you confident? Were you one of those swashbuckling entrepreneurs?
Like I had this business plan, which was 3,000 words in one paper, and I had no idea what to do with it, and not the confidence or the skills for business. So it really helped me a lot.
So how did Cardiff Met, how did they support you with that when you had your idea, your plans? What kind of things did you do? Did you go to events?
So I also attended a Countdown to Launch, which is a 1-week business program that Cardiff Met runs, and that helped me really dig deeper into my business and what I wanted to do and give me more confidence.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So moving on to some of the challenges, and then we'll start to think about and chat about some of the technologies that you've used. So just on the challenges, I'll come back to Chris then. So some of the challenges you're trying to motivate the the organisation to become more entrepreneurial, to create more startups, to have more entrepreneurial mindsets, all that fantastic work, embedding it into the curriculum through events, extracurricular stuff. What sort of challenges do you face in your kind of almost on a day-to-day or even strategically?
I think I've been in this role now for about 16 years, so it's been a long job trying to embed enterprise in the curriculum. And we've had varying degrees of success over the years, mainly because staff are, very much full with all their normal roles, and they don't see that they didn't see that as a focus. Okay, so what we've Simply Do has come along, and that's helped us massively. And whereas we were seeing perhaps the enterprise department just coming in and taking the students away, and that they didn't like that, now we are part of the solution for a problem that they have, which is most of our students in college do Welsh back, and they have to do an enterprise module. And obviously the teachers don't always feel confident in delivering that enterprise agenda. So what we do now is we go in and we start introducing something like Simply Do, which the teachers get to learn about and love, and they learn enterprise skills too. But the students really take it on board because it's very easy to use and very pleasant. What students are like, they love technology and they don't want to put the technology down. So we embrace them by using it. So it's been great for us. I mean, we've got something like 700 users of Simply Do now, and we are quite a small FE college. So it's been a great focus, and it allows us to, embed it to the majority of students in our college, and also to get the staff learning about it as well. So just take a typical day yesterday. We did a session with Cert Ed, teacher training course last night, and we showed them Simply Do as a tool that they can use with their students. We did a session with 2 staff who want to start a business in their partner in their spare time and in the holidays, and we use Simply Do there. So it's so versatile for us. So we use it to embed, we use it for one-to-ones, we use it for competitions. And it's been great in that because we're using it, we've got all those ideas in a bank. And when it comes to doing things like Big Ideas Celebrated, to run an event in Wales where they try to celebrate entrepreneurs, then we've got all those ideas and we can search for the best ones and put them forward. And we've got 3 teams that are going up to Bangor next week. So,
do you know what? We should get you on our advert. I've just decided.
I thought it was already on there.
Actually, I think you are approved somewhere. But okay, so I think we'll come back to some of the technology in a second. That's a great kind of overview as well. I was just trying to bring in Chris Walker as well from Bangor Uni. We're just going to try and mute his mic as well. This is my first webinar as well, so I feel like Graham Norton, but probably just not as attractive. Move on to Dowie then as well. So just sort of give us just an overview, kind of some of the challenges. So whether it's kind of driving the events, whether it's to start supporting embedding, give us an overview.
Well, I suppose we should start at the beginning, guys. I mean, entrepreneurship is one of the key strategies at Cardiff Met, but it hasn't always been that way. I think enterprise and entrepreneurship education at the level we're talking now is relatively new. There always has been enterprise education, but I don't think we've quite seen it at the level at which it currently stands, and that poses quite a lot of challenges actually, from the way that we do things as a university, to the way we teach, the way that our students interact with us, particularly when you start looking at technology and what student demands are now, looking at student satisfaction surveys and actually seeing what students, how they want to learn, is very different to the way it was even a couple of years ago. So it puts a lot of pressure on educators, particularly as a small department like us, and how we're going to meet those. It's a complicated issue, and if you start thinking about how that's resourced in itself within a university structure, I mean, a university by its nature is complicated. There are lots, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. There's lots of different arms, and people doing lots of different things, particularly like things like academic buy-in, when we're talking about introducing things that students want to see, but then we have to make it line up with the curriculum as well. So there's those things happening too. And then as well as that, you add in additional pressures from external bodies. The university wants to be seen, students want to be seen, but that means actually integrating what we do with other organizations. So when we talk about startup awards, for example, these sorts of things put a huge amount of pressure on what is already a limited resource. So any sort of technology that's going to help bind those things together can only be a good thing, really.
Okay, so let's think about introducing something new into an established organisation, whether it's a college or a university or any kind of large organisation, really. What do we think are some of the challenges? So we'll think about technology in this case. So you've got potentially members of staff that are used to using certain systems, whether those are offline, online, whatever. Yeah. What sort of challenges might you face? I'll start with you, Debbie, as well.
Well, the biggest thing for us is how do we get academics to buy into it? It takes a huge amount of resource to train, or not just academic staff, but staff generally, in how to use a platform. Then we need to get it adopted so the students actually use it. And then there's the other added complication is that students, for the most part, don't actually like to use technology that the university gives them. So Moodle, despite it being a huge platform, the interaction it gets is low if you can consider the amount of students we have. So it comes with a huge set of challenges. That said, what we do know is that there is a huge amount of convenience factor. We know that students like to have information quickly and on demand. They also like things to link up together, which we also know. So, and it makes things so much easier for us. If you think about the Simply Do platform when it was linked with the Welsh Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing for us, because if you compare that to some of the other competitions that we have to put in for, the workload is almost incomparable. It makes a massive difference, and also to the students as well, because they ultimately are studying, and whilst we promote entrepreneurship and startup at university, we still want them to concentrate on their degrees.
Yeah.
So anything that we can use to help save them time has got to be a good thing.
So I've just had a question, which is actually great. I was trying to look at you and look at the question. I think I kind of need to have some sort of peripheral vision, but it's a great question that's come in just now, which is basically around, can we clarify a technology you were talking about? I think that's in reference to what you were talking about, Chris. So was it Simply Do Ideas? No, it says.
Should I explain? What do you want to do?
No, it was just to quickly respond to the question, really. So the platform that Chris was talking about was our software platform called Simply Do Ideas. It actually can bring it onto Debbie, actually, who has used it as part of an accelerator. So it's in essence an early stage idea testing platform that's used either to support startups or for embedding into the curriculum, as Chris mentioned. So specifically for accelerators, I don't know whether you've got any feedback on that from that perspective.
From an accelerator point of view?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one, I suppose, there's a couple of areas where we felt that it was best placed. And to be honest with you, I thought one of the best things that we got out of it was actually telling students that it is something that they can just do, they can use for getting ideas down quickly. Yeah, and so when I'm introducing it to students in sort of lecture theatre, the way I describe it is I give them the link and then I say to them, look, when you're on the bus or whilst you're waiting for a train or something, they're not really fully committed at this point, but it's a great way of getting ideas down. Then you can share them with me or other people from the centre. But then what that means is that when they access other support, so they come in for one-to-one support, or if they go to, if it comes in via email as a contact, then we can we already have the information there, so we can decide how best to support them, whether they need to go to certain workshops, for example, or if there's any kind of outside help that we can bring them in, perhaps they'd be better suited to somebody else's network. But then that follows on as well, so we can select which ones we think might have enough potential to go forward to our accelerator program, which where space is naturally limited. And at that point, we can actually see how that might grow and develop as it moves forward to the point where it may be ready, that it is ready to send to a competition.
Okay, so it's almost like as a qualifier for
that's right.
Almost like to vet the level of inquiries. So I think obviously talking about some of the resources, obviously you want to be dealing with, you won't have the capacity to deal with every single inquiry necessarily, and give them the full undivided attention. So just bringing Jay in as well. So talking about the technology that Debbie mentioned just now, which is actually, I wouldn't hide it's our platform, but simply do ideas. So do you find that having access to technology helps you? Obviously, you're significantly younger than me, as you can see. So do you find that obviously, youngsters your age, do you find that it's really appealing, or almost like it's an essential fact to have on-demand technology?
Yeah, definitely. I think it helped me so much because it's easy to access, and it's so broken down that you can really think about what you need to put in there. It's not a long business plan. It's straight to the point, and everything these days is on demand.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think going back to Dewi's point as well, so when you're potentially in that early stage, having somewhere digital that could, your advisor in your pocket almost, that you can kind of be able to come out and get your early thoughts out.
There's, I suppose this one thing I probably would share though is that, and it's just learning from Jay really. So when Jay graduated, I remember that meeting actually. I remember it was in Starbucks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember.
Best meetings are in Starbucks.
Yeah, that's right.
Other coffee shops are available.
And we had that meeting, and you hadn't engaged with the centre at that point, really. I don't think. No. But then, so we had a student who didn't really have any business acumen, who had an idea, but also, but what we also had was an 80-page business plan to go with it. So, which was kind of, despite having all that information trapped within that business plan, we weren't at the point where we could do anything. It didn't translate into something simple enough, and also, you question whether that was actually the right way to go about it in the first place. So, what we were able to do is turn it into something much more simplified, manageable, and you're heading towards like value proposition and stuff as well at this point. But that's really important for students, and I think that having simplifying that down and having a platform like this is actually a better model than just going in straight into writing a business plan. It gives you an idea as to how you can test. I suppose you're looking at sort of model canvases again, but it does help as an early stage at the beginning. Otherwise, the danger is that we end up in situations like with Jay, a very talented student and now a very successful business person, leaving university with very good grades, an exemplary business plan, but to what purpose?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, there's probably, and I'll bring Chris into this now, so there's probably all those young people out there that have got ideas, and I think naturally and historically it's been, you could use something like business model canvas, you could go and use, start writing your business plan, so like as Jay mentioned as well.
This is what we used to do. We're working for the Welsh Government, we have been for the past 17 years.
So regularly.
And we used to use it, a template,
and
it was so complex. So, for the ones who were really, really serious about starting a business, then maybe they would do it. But it was frightening. I used to see their face when they saw the template. It was so scary. And you could never have given that to general students. Whereas with Simply Do now, we can go in, we can introduce it. I get shocked and surprised every day at the results. Last week we were watching 4 A-level groups presenting using Simply Do, and their ideas were phenomenal, things that you never imagined they could come up with. So to me, it's just helped, it become, we got 16 to 18-year-olds and all different levels. We've got A-levels, we've got vocational students. And at the end of the day, a big percentage, they reckon 1 in 7 people in Wales now start a business. So huge percentage are potentially going to go and start a business. So we should give them all the tools to be able to do that.
Okay.
Can I jump in from
fantastic.
very wet North Wales here?
Good, we've got Chris in. I don't know, I think we probably had some technical issues on our side as well. So welcome, Chris. So do you want to?
I've just been happily.
That's okay. So do you want to just give us a little bit of an intro and obviously your role? Because I think you've been heavily involved in curriculum work as well.
Yeah. So, well, let me just answer why I decided to jump in at that point. Is that one of the key things I think about Simply Do is that you're actually seeing your business and business idea as an ecosystem. You can see it all in one go, a gestalt, if you like. And you talked about your 500-page or 300-page business plans. I mean, the problem with those is that having written numerous, etc., is that it's very hard to get the point or to actually move the parts around. It all feels very dissociated, whereas what you've got with something that you can play with, it's like a sandpit. Mm-hmm. And it really means that as you see that one idea is developing or something's changing, you can immediately, from your canvas, just play around with how that interacts with effects, what dynamics it has, are there unforeseen consequences coming out of X, Y, and Z. So I love that very fact. For me, it brings business planning into the 21st century so that you can see it, and you can, as I say, it's more like an ecosystem than just this static, boring, dull presentation that the business plan usually is.
Can I just add?
Let me introduce myself. I'm up here in the very rainy North Wales. I should be able to see the map from here, but it's cloud, etc. My background is that I'm actually a global consultant. I own my own business called People Systems International, and we work with the big massives around the world. So I use business model canvas a lot in my consultancy, but also increasingly simply do to get some easy hits. And because it's so visual and digital, as a digital nomad, I really appreciate that kind of connectivity, if you like. But I'm also a lecturer here at Bangor University Business School, and I do lots of in-curriculum work, and one in particular that centres on simply do ideas, which I'm sure I'll elaborate a bit later. I'm a business mentor, both for Be Enterprising, the university kind of helping students and staff, but I also work with Big Ideas Wales, and again, use it a lot actually when I'm talking to clients so that we can map out stuff and play with it, etc. So that's probably enough for me for the minute.
That's really good. No, thank you, Kristen. Thank you for giving a what sounds like a ringing endorsement to the platform as well, which I think is interesting. So I'm going to start probably getting a little bit conscious that we're talking about simply do ideas. But I think one thing I was interested to know about was one of the methods we use is obviously video within the platform. So I was going to ask Jay. Obviously, Jay, you're creating an online video portal of your yoga classes. So talk to us about how having video can help communicate your idea, perhaps when you're in the early stages. So I'll throw that at you, Jay.
So getting to a bigger audience, building up that confidence as well, being in front of the camera, and that's basically getting to a bigger audience, on demand.
Yeah.
Internet.
So you do videos for your business anyway. Are you comfortable producing video content? So I know there's some competitions that involve video submissions, so things like Santander universities. Is that something you're comfortable with, or do you?
No, it takes a lot of time to build up that confidence, being in front of the camera.
Okay.
But when I was applying for Big Wales Ideas, I used the concept canvas to map out what I was going to say in the video, so I could break it down and put it into one. So
the concept canvas, just to confirm, it's basically an offline early stage idea modelling tool, really, paper based.
Can I jump in again?
Of course, Chris. Yeah, go on.
So perhaps to elaborate the kinds of things we do up here, there's one particular kind of program that we do for the School of Biology, Bioenterprise, and it's in curriculum. And I guess, again, just to say what I like about Simply Do is that it fits with certainly the kind of teaching methodology I use, which is experiential. So the kind of 8-week program that we actually do with the students would include kind of lectures about marketing, finance, etc. That will flip very quickly into then having a look at Simply Do as both as a taught aspect, but then to get the groups to work together. And then we have a Dragon's Den for the students. Now, this last year we had just under 100 students actually go through this, so we had to do it over a 2-day intensive kind of thing, which is a Dragon's Den basically. So very simple. Their job is to think of a business idea that's biology related, and we also flipped it into a sort of a climate change problem solving kind of what products, what services might we use to actually accelerate that process. And so what they do is they go through the day, they'll actually in teams generate an idea, work on it together using the canvas. But I guess where I jumped in is that they have to also, after lunch, the graveyard shift, create a video, which we do on iPads. So it's very quick and dirty. It's very simple. Everybody does it. It's a great thing to do after lunch. And of course, i.e. it's energetic and interesting. And of course, they can immediately plonk that straight onto the Simply Do platform. Say, we also kind of got the students or invited them to submit to the Santander Awards, and we've got 5 through that came from an in-curriculum thing. So that's been a real boost for the students who thought, oh, this is value added, didn't think about this. So, you know, at that level, videos are great. The platform's great because it's visual. It's also digital. So 2018, and you can see in my advanced years here, so digital works for me, and having that capacity to upload photographs, ideas, videos, brilliant.
Thank you, Chris. That's great. That's a really good insight, and in probably a non-traditional business area as well.
Yeah.
So just bringing it back around to kind of some other, obviously there are other products available, much like there is a Costa compared to your Starbucks and other coffee shops. So I've just popped a question on the chat just as to what other technologies people use. So I know that in the past, in my role in both further and higher education, we tried using Facebook groups. Some of them worked, some didn't. We tried using Facebook groups for academics as well, so to create groups to share learning, and we've also used LinkedIn historically as well. So I'm going to start with Dewi as well, to start with maybe some other groups. Were there any communities that you use? Have you ever tried using things like Slack or other technologies?
Not so much really. I think when I'm teaching myself, particularly students, what I'm always conscious of is introducing new things to them. Instead, I kind of try to use what they already have. So if, we know all students, for example, know what eBay is, right? They've all got eBay on their phone. So if we're going to teach them how to sell things, then one of the first things I would teach them to use is eBay, because they have that, and
they're used to using it.
And they're used to using it, yeah. So they get it, and it's a good first step, But this time they're going to be doing it from an entrepreneurial point of view. The same goes for communicating. If they all have Facebook Messenger, they all have WhatsApp, they all have Snapchat as well. So it makes sense to help to use these things that they already have access to, and it's just about encouraging them to use those in a more effective way. So just to reiterate this, last week I was with a group of marketing students, and they were all fashion marketers, and so the main things that they focused on are things like Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and all the rest of the sort of things. I asked them, and there's like 40 students there, how many of you follow the leading fashion marketers in your industry? And not a single person. Not a single one. And it's the same, and it's not just just to that subject. I ask it to all the subject. When you ask, you can ask a group of graphic designers, how many of you follow the most followed graphic designer on Twitter? Nobody. And yet they have these tools already, they have access to them. They have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything else. The problem is that we don't teach them how to use those in a way that's going to actually help them with their education and with their businesses. So it's a lot of it is just about re-educating how we use tools that we already have.
I was going to say they disassociate the business from their pleasure, and Instagram's from their pleasure.
Right,
I mean,
that's
Facebook,
right.
We think they use Facebook, but my daughter's 20 and she's like, Facebook, so last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure as older people that we think they might be using something that they don't, that's not flavour of the month at the moment.
Yeah. So we just get them using the Facebook sometimes. Is that?
Well, they don't use Facebook anymore, do they? Or a few of them might.
Yeah.
WhatsApp is good for us. We use WhatsApp a lot with groups and to communicate. But, like you said, they're not associating they're social to them, they're social tools and not business tools.
I mean, some great questions coming through on the chat as well. So just going to pick up on them very quickly, and we may have time at the end, I think, for the questions in more depth. But there's people asking around about Simply Do. So I didn't want to obviously overtake the webinar just talking necessarily about Simply Do ideas, but we offer free trials. So post this webinar, we can give obviously interested people just a free trial or a walkthrough, and they can have a little play with it themselves. And just on the question of other platforms that people use, we're interested to read some of those. We've got a couple of people using Canvas. For those who don't know, it's a kind of a cross-institutional virtual learning environment. Oh, there we go, VLE. And others, I think a couple of them mentioned around using Slack as well. So Slack just is basically, again, it's kind of an informal communication channel. We use Slack internally. It's much easier than building up lots of emails, and there is obviously there's free and paid versions of Slack as well. Nothing to use that. Actually, that's an interesting point. So I was going to talk to probably go back to Dowie in this one as well. So communicating with students and graduates and staff. Do you use MailChimp? Do you use like newsletters? How does it comms work?
Well, we've invested quite heavily in Career Hub, which is been adopted as a whole across the university, and it has quite a powerful mailing system built into it.
Okay.
And we use that to promoting events, and also we can tag people as well. So, we can tag them, for example, if they are a graphic designer, or we think they're interested in freelancing, or what stage they're at. So there's all sorts of things we can add additional information on and find them for those. So send them things that are relevant just to them. But in terms of communication, I mean, students are bombarded with stuff.
Yeah.
Noise. They are, and it's very, very noisy. Particularly, I suppose, if you're 20 and you're not a student, it's noisy. Let alone being a student as well, and then you've got all those academic emails and everything else that goes with it. And to be perfectly honest with you, the best single way that we found of advertising stuff is just to stand there in front of them and speak to them. You go to lectures. You deliver guest talks. We bring in speakers. We bring in other entrepreneurs. Deliver workshops, do road shows, stand in foyers, doing talking tables, whatever. Just getting in front of them, because a lot of them don't associate the things that entrepreneurship education or enterprise education with what they think that they're doing. Yeah, and it takes a little bit of a conversation first. After that, and we've got them interested, we've got them on newsletter, then we can start plugging things.
Okay,
but we've kind of changed tact a little bit and started making things quite short, actually. Very short.
Jump in again from up here?
Go, Chris, yeah.
Just thinking then about in curriculum and again platforms. At the university here, we're forced to use Blackboard and kind of turn it into check plagiarism and what have you. Now, interestingly enough, there's probably a little work to do for you guys down at Simply Do. It's one of the things that we actually found was that in order to submit to that platform, it was necessary to use the PDF version of the Simply Do, which I'd put the assign, so it was for an assign. And what we actually found was that somehow the PDF doesn't format the same as the Simply Do platform. I'd said they'd got 5 pages to do whatever, and it just spiraled it into 9 pages. So one of the sort of downsides from this iteration of working with 100 students in curriculum was that they all said, oh, does it make any difference that it's 9 pages long instead of 5 pages long now in order to have it go through the Turnitin process? Okay. I'm imagining that's a very, very small glitch that can easily be solved. But, you know, certainly 95% in curriculum. So as I say, there were 100 to mark, kind of, apart from taking to do, kind of worked really well. And again, you having to use the Blackboard platform, which is a bit clunky compared to our kind of WhatsApps and whatever else is, but just to kind of give feedback that it worked, little bits of tweaks to do, but you know, that platform worked well.
Thank you. So I think that's an interesting point actually about existing platforms. So I think a lot of us use Moodle, Blackboard. We've had a couple of people mention around Canvas, which is obviously a modern VLE. Career Hub was mentioned as well. So around integrations with other software platforms. So Chris mentioned around Blackboard and Turnitin as well. So they're not necessarily just about Simply Do ideas, but I'm thinking around other platforms as well. So whether it's Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, how do you weave that into some of their, you know, some of their other work, whether it's the, you know, the assessment stuff's on Blackboard? I mean, how do you find that?
For us, with FE students,
do you use Moodle? Sorry, Chris,
we use Moodle a lot in the college, but we find, like, personally from the enterprise department, trying to communicate a message out to all the students about enterprise. You know, the email just doesn't work. They have a student email, which they never look at half the time, and then we don't have their private emails. So what we did in Merthyr College, one of our IT tutors designed a college app, which all the students have on their phones. So any message that we want to put out to everyone, you know, we do it via that. So if there's an enterprise event, I ask my marketing department and they put it on the app, and then everybody's got the app. Okay. You know, same thing. We try and make it more personal. We've got screens around the college, but even, you know, you put something on there, and people, it's just so much part of their, you know, what's the word? But they just don't look at it, you know. So that app is proved really critical for us, and we do have an option that if we really want to get something out, I give it to my marketing department, they text it out. So we've got this phone and setups, you know, if it's snowing, everybody gets the text.
So the SMS messaging.
So although we don't use that all the time, if we're desperate to get something out that everybody needs to know about, it goes on the app and it goes via text. So
that's really interesting. So it goes back to Debbie's point about almost like the noise. And I think one thing that's obviously we're probably all aware of is GDPR coming in May, and I'm going to look at Will, our Chief Technology Officer, as well. As, you know, so GDPR is going to have a big impact on how we interact and use technology to engage with students and graduates and externals, actually. So I don't know whether any of you have come across any issues like that so far, or whether there's challenges. It's something I think probably be dealt with within IT teams and data management teams, but I think that's going to impact probably the ways that we communicate with students to promote events, workshops, additional kind of other activities as well. Someone just put a message through with a whole list of different things that they use. I think these tend to be the ones that are quite common as well, with regards to Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So those are quite good. GDPR is the, what does it stand for? The
General Data Protection Regulation.
General Data Protection Regulation. So it's coming in May this year, and it's around how data is used and managed. So again, it'll impact Blackboard heavily, it's impacting us. So it just basically means that that you need to manage the data more effectively. In essence, it's a guidance rule of how you can use the data. So it should reduce those kind of various spammy emails. So ultimately, you need to opt in to the various technology platforms for them to be able to use your data, which is actually good practice, to be honest. So just moving on to kind of some of the challenges you've got with regards. Sorry,
yeah, there was an interesting question about VR stuff and augmented reality that came up earlier. There was just an interesting topic because the accelerator program that Jay was on, two of the guys on there, John and Ben from Archer Sports Management, they actually work with a VR company, which they're developing, which is actually to simulate buildings like stadiums and sporting venues. And coincidentally, that's actually they're going to use, or they're in the process of selling that back to the university now. To help teach the new stadium management course. So you can actually simulate the business in virtual reality, in VR. So the students will be able to actually experience what it would be like working in that facility. Using that. It's an amazing tool.
Really good.
Yeah, and that's it feels like something from the future, but it's only months away.
It is, yeah. I mean, we're going off tangent a little bit. VR, I think it's a really interesting sort of area. It's one of those ones when I think the hardware becomes more accessible. So we've all got the kits that, much like we've got on our mobile phones, and experiences like that are going to become almost second nature. Which is really exciting.
It could be fantastic. I mean, especially when you think about the future of where webinars like this could be going, or group activities. I mean, we're only just sort of venturing into long distance learning, I suppose, as an entrepreneurship centre. But it's so important because obviously people want to start businesses after they graduate, and they're not necessarily local.
So that's an interesting point around remotely working with students and graduates. So, for example, you're going to have your alumni that might move back home, that might not be in the area of your education institution. So, how does technology play a role in engaging them? Can you create communities such as LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups like we talked about? And what tools do you use to engage those once they've left the organisation?
Are you
talking? That's a tough one. I'll leave you to think about that.
I think it is. We had a discussion about this a few months ago, which was last year, I guess. The problem with the distance learning side of things, which for graduates, is that we don't condition the students to work remotely. So when I was talking to somebody at the EEUK conference last year from the Open University, obviously they have a huge amount of expertise in this area, but all of their students have obviously no issues working remotely. But if you're a regular student from a regular campus, they have no experience in it, so they're not conditioned to it. So the moment they graduate, it's a very difficult thing for them to then switch over to working remotely, or whether it be using different technology or whatever. So one of the things I think it's probably worth thinking about is how we start conditioning our students earlier on to work remotely using technology, asking them to use webinars and things. But then I suppose it contradicts how the university likes to teach things.
Then let's
for us. I mean, we do have students who we start to work with when they are students, and then they leave. And I think of an example now. I'm working with someone who's not a student in the college. However, because of the link with us before he left, he's come back to me. So we've signed him up on Simply Do, and that helps it because he can submit it and I can see it remotely. But what we've had to do is to register him as an enterprise student. So the people that I see as one-to-one people, who are not students, and I always have got a lot of those people because they hear me in with that and they come to see me even though they're not students. So we don't just deal with students, we deal with ex-students and people who've never been students, but then they come to me and they become an enterprise student in our college. But then Simply Do is brilliant because they can sit with me for an hour to introduce it, and I can sign them up and they go away. And then they submit it, and I review it and send them comments. So it's perfect, really, for whatever distance away they are from the college.
So I suppose with that, they're almost doing the work when you're not necessarily with them, but you
can
track their progress and give them
feedback.
Okay, that's interesting. And I'll bring in Jay as well. So on this kind of communication side, so obviously you're a digital native, you've been brought up in that sort of environment. Communication-wise, so on the other side of it, so are you happy communicating with expertise, advice, professional advice, whatever it might be? Are you happy communicating with them using platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, Simply Do Ideas? Is that something you're comfortable with, or do you still feel face-to-face is best when it's a professional meeting? What's your view? Skype as well,
I think
Zoom?
It depends on what stage you're at. So if you're like really at the early stage, it's maybe, to me anyway, it's good to meet one-to-one to get all your ideas out, and then start to work distance, so you can work through chats or WhatsApp or something, communicate that way.
Yeah.
And then if like a big event is coming up, or you want to develop your business or go further, then maybe at key times you meet one-to-one, but there is that time that you can work with chat.
That's really interesting. So again, it's kind of so it's tailored to suit the individuals who maybe at the front end might want to meet. Okay, that's really interesting. So I was just going to finish up with probably one last question, really. I think, and we can sort of have a little chat about it. So, is it? And this is probably quite a broad one, but do you think technology has got a role to play in trying to pull those individuals with an idea within the curriculum through to becoming a startup? That's a tough question. I'm going to fire that out because it's a tough question. I'll fire it at Christine.
This is perfect because, as I said, we use Simply Do in so many different ways, but we start by trying to embed into the curriculum through our Welsh Back activity. So we go in and we introduce them to Simply Do at the time when they have to come up with an idea for their Welsh Back enterprise module.
Yeah.
So we do that, and we always from every class, they're doing it because they have to do it for Welsh Back, but then they come up with these ideas and they start believing that they can actually do it. And so, like I said to you, some wonderful ideas. We've got 700 students signed up on Simply Do, so there's a huge variety. But then what they will do, they'll come from it. And we always say, okay, we're the enterprise model, we're here, you can come and see us whenever you like. And always, at least one out of each class will come at the desk and say, somebody at the desk, Chris, can you see them? And they'll say, I really want to take this forward. So it's perfect. It's doing exactly what we want. It's giving the broad skills to everyone, but then the people that you ignite that spark with who want to take that forward and do it now. And some of them will have come up with ideas with their group for the just for the Welsh Back, and then some will want to take that idea forward and go with it for real, or they'll want to take a different idea and come on their own. Right? We've had groups, we've had individuals. I mean, you say here in the questions about one example. I'll give you an example. Last academic year, we start in September, we go in, we do sessions, and straight away one young guy, 16-year-old, was referred to us. His name was David Jones, and 16-year-old, absolute genius, designed an app. We worked with him, he went right through the system, we referred him to Big Ideas Bootcamp, Big Ideas Celebrated. We took him to eSpark. He then applied to be an eSpark, and the downside was he actually decided after a year of A-levels, and he was a genius A-level student, that he wanted to stop his studies and become an entrepreneur. So I had a bit of problem with the teachers, and they're like, you've taken up Star Pupil, but at the end of the day, the experience he's had this last year, he's still in eSpark now, we still work together, even though he's not a student. He's on our TAFLAB program, which is a RSA funded program to help entrepreneurs. So I'm still working with him all the time, even though he's not a student. He's in eSpark, he's 17 years old, and he launched his business app in London, the London Transport Museum in London. He had Stephen Fry retweet, and it's just amazing to see these youngsters develop and to think that we've given him those opportunities, and he's going to be an amazing entrepreneur, and he's still only 17.
He is an amazing guy.
Can I jump in on the back of that?
I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to have to just make sure we finish up on time as well. So
I'll be quick. So doing Welsh Back too, using Simply Do, and what we found to advantage, what we actually as part of it, or the Welsh Back thing, was to actually work with a couple of charity organisations. And because of using the Simply Do and the capability of digital photography, etc., we found that the pupils actually went to the charities with their phone cameras and actually enhanced the communication because they'd got an excuse to be there and to talk and to be there. So it's probably one of the only times when mobile phones actually enhance one-to-one communication in the real world, and actually having the Simply Do kind of platform enabled that, because they were encouraged to go and photograph what the shops were like, etc. So there we go.
That's a great example, actually. And I think, and again, it's about, I think Chris mentioned around almost like stepping into the world of what the students and graduates are like, and they'll want to work on the best. They'll want to go and potentially film things when they're out. It makes the experience a lot richer.
Yeah, the great thing around these, it allows a group to collaborate. So if you've got a group of 6 students, they can all sign up to the same idea and they can all be working on it simultaneously. I noticed there's a question there when we're talking about events. We refer to events the Welsh Government runs, so they run these boot camps. So that's Big Ideas Wales run events, and we are all part of that bigger ecosystem. We refer out to those.
That is a good question, actually, and I think those events will vary depending on locality. In Wales, obviously, a lot of them are run by Welsh Government through Big Ideas Wales, and others are run by organisations like the RSA, which will obviously exist throughout the whole of the UK. So just looking at the time, but I'll move on to Derry about this as well. So I think pulling those students through.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was interested in slightly different bit of it, but I was thinking again back to Jay, and what's interesting is we have a lot of students doing enterprise modules as a choice that they make instead of doing a dissertation. Now, the thing is that might lead them to just doing the work so they can get a mark until they get graded, and then they go through the system, etc. And I think a lot of the time students don't realise what they have, and they don't realise that this actually could be a real option for them. The problem is that when you graduate then, and your final project is an 80-page business plan, how do you share that and actually have any kind of validation from that? You can't, is the simple answer to it. Whereas if you have a simplified model, like the Simply Do platform, and there are other ways of doing it as well, but if you have a simplified version and you can share that with somebody else, it means that your local community and people around you and other entrepreneurs and people of influence and things can actually say, do you know what, you're onto something good here. You're onto a good thing. And it's a huge identity change for somebody to go from being a student with an enterprise project to actually thinking this could be a genuine idea. It's real. And
confidence as well.
Yeah, huge confidence, confidence, identity, the same. And from that point, are we then saying that actually this could just be a good tool for helping somebody realize their potential?
That's a very good point.
Just one more throw in. We did some presentations last week by an A-level group, and we just got a notification that USW do these Making Business Happen awards, right? And we put David in for it last year, but this year, so we were sitting there watching these presentations and thinking, oh my God, that's got to go through to USW business. And we're telling them as we're watching, look, this is good enough to go through to USW Making It Happen Business Awards. And we didn't I? Tell them that instead of having to do another application form, why can't they just use Simply Do? And they confirmed that next year we will be able to put Simply Do straight through to that competition. So again, it saves work, like you said. They're doing other courses, they're doing A-levels. We don't want to make work for them. If they've already done it, then why can't we send that off? So
I suppose they developed an early stage business plan, for a better word, and they kind of fleshed it out, and they're thinking, actually, maybe I could do something with this now. Okay, so
we tell them that we think it's good enough because we see all the array, and we're like, actually, this is exceptional, and we want to put you forward.
That's interesting. Reverse it rather than them coming to you.
Yeah, we did it with three groups just in one class last week.
Just an added value to that too, which is a sort of a sharp angle into the real world, is that because they're doing videos, if they product or service that's suitable for crowdfunding, they're already on the road to having that essential video or the knowledge of how to put it together to start financing their startup business. So again, just another added value.
That's a fair point. I mean, it could be an early stage video explainer type, and we've seen lots of those in the various ideas that get submitted as well, which is interesting. So this is really interesting. So I think just by way of wrapping up, we've only got a minute or so left. So from our point of view, so just to wrap up, I think it's just a matter of saying any last comments or things to add, just in the last 60 seconds or so we've got. Jay, I'll start with you. Put you on the spot.
Just that this is a really good tool for anyone who's looking to go into business, like a student who has a really good idea. It's really simple, really easy to use, and I just recommend it definitely.
So we'll take Chris off the advert now. We'll put Jay on there. Are there anything else with regards to sort of general technology? I know you're quite immersed in it yourself anyway.
I think that I like this, the webinar.
Yeah,
I think this is a great idea. I'm sort of trying to work out how we can teach students like this. I mean, it seems to work, and I like the fact that they can ask questions as well.
Yeah,
and it's great. I mean, because we can bring in all people from all over the world. It's fantastic. I just don't know. Again, I'm thinking about how I'm going to integrate this into what we do. But it's been a good experience.
It's interesting, yeah, and it has been for us as well. So,
summarise, I just think the last thing I would say is things like Simply Do have helped me not only embed enterprise into the curriculum, but to create a more entrepreneurial college, because while you're doing that to the students, the staff are there too, and the staff are beginning to learn about business ideas. And like I said, I spoke to 2 staff yesterday who want to start their own business. So it was quite interesting to me. I'm dealing with students, I'm dealing with teachers who we want to get straight in while they're learning and say, hold on, you might be an art teacher, you might be a photography teacher, but you have a responsibility to develop entrepreneurial students. And it's great to get them before they go into the classroom. So for us, Simply Do's helped us to create an entrepreneurial college.
Thank you. So Chris, just think you've got a couple of seconds. We'll pass it back to Bonnie.
I'm a fan. What I love about it is that, all my professional life working with big multinationals has been using an experiential approach. Simply Do's a doddle to integrate into that activity-based, action-based kind of learning, and it enhances it magnificently. I will be using it over and over again.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And I think we've got literally a bit of time to hand back to Bonnie. I think the questions we tried to cover, but thanks for the kind late messages as well for everyone. But I think it's a goodbye from Cardiff, from all of us, and we'll hand back to Bonnie if she's
That's
there.
Great. I'm here. So thank you so much to Lee, to Christine, to Dewey, to Jay, and also to Chris, for giving us this really interesting and insightful insight into how we might use technology as enterprise educators. Really, really appreciate that.